Well, didn't really see that one coming as things played out. Even in the beginning when the Pistons went up, no problem. The 76ers will come back and take this one. But that is not the case as the Philadelphia 76ers dropped to 1-3 on the season and wasn't really this close in the second half. Final score 105-95. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show here presented by the great people from Bet365. Fantastic work that they do as a sponsor on this show. But we have a lot to get to in this one as the Sixers again fall to 1-3. Tobias Harris chirping a little bit as he was allowed to as the team walks away with the victory, and the crowd really gave it to him. 32 points a game best for Tyrese Maxey, but it wasn't nearly enough for the 76ers, Rich, as this one played out. Another disappointing performance by the home team.
Devon, that was painful, man. That was really rough. And I just feel like the Sixers are just having a nightmare first couple weeks of the season, right? I mean, we talked about all of the off-court stuff. You talked about it on yesterday's pod. And sorry, excuse me. I'm getting sick. That's how bad.
Get this man some Rite Aid.
The Sixers have been. Yeah, exactly. No, they've been. I think the worst part is, look, we weren't in the arena tonight. We were in the comfort of the PHLY studios, but man, it just felt like completely dead in there, right? There were a couple boos for Tobias during the game, but this team is offering these people nothing to cheer for. There's just a lack of interest around these guys right now. And obviously I know how you get that back. You get Joel Embiid back, you get Paul George back, but it's a really hard watch. Like I think I just found myself as I was taking notes about, oh, okay, that was a nice pick and roll read by Tyrese Maxey. Yabusele made another three, all those things. It just doesn't matter. There's just too many lulls, and it's so hard for these guys to score. So, I mean, ultimately, like, until Joel and PG come back, I think we have to view these guys as basically one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like, any win they get is a bonus. The fact that they got 1 of 4
and needed overtime to do
week,
that one.
I mean, yeah, but to beat a team like Indiana, that's probably a decent outcome for these guys because their 3 losses, they've gotten outplayed by a ton here. It's just, and frankly, like, I think we probably should have known something like this was coming, but I have to say, it's even a little bit worse than I expected.
I don't know, Rich, because let's go back to the Toronto game. I expected them to beat the Toronto Raptors, even with Tyrese Maxey as the lead guy. No RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly out, and they had a few other guys sitting. Didn't expect 3 guys 2 guys in particular, I didn't really know who they were. Sheed, I know a little bit from Houston playing in college. They had double-digit scoring off the bench from those 3. I expected them to beat them. Indiana, lose.
Yeah.
I think they would lose that one. Tonight, I expected them to beat this Detroit Pistons team, and they did not look like Detroit looked better than they did tonight. So while they are both sporting 1-4 records on the season right now, or 1-3 for the 76ers right now, 1-4 for the Pistons, somehow the Pistons were the better basketball team tonight. And the Sixers did have Maxey, and they have still a better, you look at it and you say, okay, overall better basketball team, a better head coach for this group. How are they going to lose this one tonight? I did not expect this one to play out the way that it did. Did I expect them to blow this Pistons team out? No. And I looked at him and wanted to say, this is the lowly Detroit Pistons basketball team. But you know what's lowly right now? And that is the Philadelphia 76ers. So 2-2 is where I expected them to be, Rich, after these 4 games. They are 1-3. And quite frankly, as you just laid out, they probably should have lost that Indiana game and sitting here 0-4. Now, it all played out the way it was supposed to because they were probably, again, supposed to beat that Toronto Raptors team last Friday night. But they didn't. And here we are, looking at that one as a bad performance that they did not win, needing overtime to beat the Indiana Pacers, who are not playing well at the moment either, and then tonight showing what they showed this fan base at home for a 2-game homestand before they go out west for 3 against both LA teams who are playing better than many people expected, and then the Phoenix Suns. Not a great start.
It's painful, man. I mean, at Toronto, when Toronto was missing all of their guys,
yeah,
and then home against Detroit, to lose those 2 games in your first week, like, when we look back, if they are in a race for, let's say it's like the 5th or 6th seed, let's say they're in a tight race at the end of the season, as these NBA seasons usually play out, right? Where, it's settled by tiebreakers or a game or 2. We might look back and just be like, man, they really could have used those games. It's It's a struggle. You know what? I didn't automatically expect them to win the night, but I didn't expect them to get outclassed at this level. Like this was essentially, what was the final score here? Right? We
105-95.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't even that close.
That was a 20-point loss. Like the Pistons were in control the entire game. They're running the ball down their throat on defense. The Sixers just can't create any sort of offense around Tyrese Maxey. And I think this game was probably the biggest bummer of all of them, because I thought Tyrese Maxey played pretty well tonight.
I did too.
I know his field goals don't look too efficient at the end of the day, but I thought he was aggressive in the right spots. Of course, he just can't make his threes right now. Finished with 7 assists. I thought it was his best playmaking game of the year. I thought he was making sharp reads to the corner, and these guys were just doing nothing with it, man. Nothing. And it's dispiriting. You could kind of feel like because their offense was so crappy that they weren't getting back on defense. And that's no excuse. I'm not excusing that, but they just feel like a lifeless bunch. Nick Nurse is trying everything he can to just try and like salvage any offense out of these guys, and they can't do it. And I don't know. I think that's the story of this Nick Nurse era so far and this Joel Embiid era so far, where they've looked pretty good when Joel Embiid has played. We haven't seen these guys this year with Joel Embiid, but they have been like unbelievably unwatchable for 2 years in a row now when Joel is not here. And I know PG, maybe if you have PG,
you probably win 2 of those games. Yeah.
It certainly closes the gap, right? Even if they lose tonight, they probably don't lose in like that sort of embarrassing fashion. But man, it's a tough watch. So look, I think we were all preaching patience to start this year. You know, what happens in April is more important than what happens we're still in October. But man, this is a tough watch.
But you still have to analyze the games as they happen. We have a pre and a post game show for all 82, and we're going to be here. So we have to react. We're not overreacting. We're reacting, I think that's fair. I think we're reacting fair for what we see, the performance that they're giving out there on the floor right now. Tonight, the Detroit Pistons were better than them. And as you say, while you may have felt like they would give at least a better overall performance, here's the reason why I thought they would win. I thought that it would, after a week of film, a week of play, and seeing the mistakes that were made in all 3 games where they escaped Indiana with a overtime victory, and they needed 45 points from Tyrese Maxey to do so. And of course, what he needed to do, 30+ in that second half and that overtime. I thought they would build off of the film that they watched, the few days that Nick Nurse even pointed out in the pregame availability of having a few days off. Rich, you talked about that as well, having a few days off of practice days to tighten up on a few things. You already know you're on demand. And if they are not coming back for this Wednesday night game, and maybe not even for the Saturday game, speaking of Joel Embiid and Paul George, then you work on the things, which I'm sure they did in practice, looking at film, trying to tighten the screws to make sure that when they do have a opponent where for right now they're at least equal to, but they are much better coached. Tyrese Maxey is the best player on the floor, as good as Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey were tonight, that you give yourself a chance to take down a team, again, that is winless on the campaign. So all of those things factored into me thinking, I didn't think they would win by 10. I didn't think they would win by a spread that was 7 points tonight. They just simply are not that good to be a 7-point favorite over anybody right now. But with those other things, I factored that in, beat this team, feed off of what you just did against a bad team for right now, but we think a playoff caliber team in the Indiana Pacers, and build off of all of that. Slowly but surely knock off the wins. Pick up a win that you probably shouldn't have against Indiana. Win your home game against a Detroit Pistons team that you should. Maybe you're going to lose to Memphis, which you probably are on Saturday. So again, just chip away for what you can do. Play better in that Memphis game where you at least, again, have something to look at and say, we're this far away, and once the guys come back, we'll be okay, because they're probably going to go 0-3 on that West Coast trip. That's why I felt like tonight may not have been a blowout over the Pistons, but a win, simply because they were a better team, and tonight they simply, again, were not.
No,
now
they were not.
They were not. All right, let's get to something that we're going to factor in every game that Rich and I do here together. Rich's key takeaways from the game tonight. We missed them in game 1 against the Milwaukee Bucks. Wasn't going to miss them tonight, especially after this terrible performance by the Philadelphia 76ers. So let's get to Rich's 3 key takeaways or from the game here. Rich, what do you have for number one?
Number one is just that we have to view this team as like the equivalent of one of the worst teams in the league. Maybe not the worst team in the league, but at this point, they have not earned the benefit of the doubt against anybody. You said they were favored by 7 points tonight?
It was something like that.
They should not be favored by 7 points against
Maybe
anybody.
Maybe it was 4, but whatever.
There is no offense on this team, and that is the second takeaway, and that is the big thing. You know, it's funny. I see the chat playing out right now, and I'm curious where you stand on this. How much of this is Nick Nurse's fault versus just the lack of players and the lack of creation and how old they are?
See, I know we discussed this because we did at the end of the season when they were eliminated in that game against New York in Game 6. I know we talked about it again against Milwaukee. I don't give him a pass, but I do fall back a little bit simply because he's dealing with injuries again to his key players. Last year, it was just start from Robert Covington to then DeAnthony Melton, and then you have Joel Embiid missing all that time. Tyrese Maxey missed a month with his foot, and they still ended up with 47 wins, 8 games in a row to close out the season, to be right in the mix for I believe it was a 4 seed that was tied with everybody from Orlando all the way down to Cleveland, New York, and everyone to try to jump in. Unfortunately, they fell into that play-in tournament, and we saw what happened once they got to the New York Knicks. And here we are again, where I don't put too much on him because once again, he is doing what he can with what he has. The best player has been struggling from the field, and let's call it for what it is. Every player that we have liked, that they have added in the offseason, they are players that are playing a level up from what their role is supposed to be at their best next to Maxey, George, and Embiid. That's the team that we all predicted would make a deep run into the postseason, second round, maybe the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe the NBA Finals. But for this group, again, playing a level up from what they are normally used to playing, Rich, that's just not going to happen. Now, they shouldn't have dropped 2 games to the Pistons and the Raptors, in my opinion, but I'm not going to play and lay that at the feet of Nick Nurse this early in the season. I'm not.
So I have a couple thoughts on this. There was the one possession tonight where, and I don't think we're doing a strong and wrong, but Kyle Lowry.
We can do one.
Well, this would be it.
This strong and wrong.
This would be it. When Kyle Lowry went behind his back in isolation against Tobias Harris and Tobias, I think, blocked that shot with his elbow.
Yeah.
It was kind of sad, honestly, to watch that. And that just summed up, like, man, they don't have any shot creation right now. Like they've got nothing.
The second best shot creator was McCain. He was the second best.
So we'll get to him.
And that was easy. That's an easy call.
Oh, by a mile. And so we'll get to him in a minute. And I think you and I view McCain the same way. Like, you know, we'll see what he becomes.
Mm-hmm. And you and I liked him a little bit more than Derek and Kyle on draft night.
But I'm still
agree connect, but we know the limitations.
But I'm fairly, you know, I've got healthy skepticism about him right now. But yeah, just the fact that he can dribble, I mean, like, dribble, shoot, like move at an under 35-year-old level. Like, I don't know. Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon, like, just a lot of minutes for those guys.
So Stacy Smith asked in the chat here, Rich, to your point, she says, she directs it to me, but I'm going to direct it to you also. Is Reggie Jackson in the doghouse or something? A DNP CD again? At this point, right? What do you have to lose in trying to figure out what may work and what may not work? He's not even taking off his warm-ups.
So Reggie Jackson has struggled the last couple of years, but yeah, we are getting to the point with this non-Embiid, non-PG roster that, yes, a guy that can dribble
and shoot
and create his own shot. Now we'll see how well he could do it at this point in his career, and obviously there are some trade-offs on the defensive end as well. But I get it, and I wouldn't mind seeing him. Yeah, for sure.
It's a veteran body that can do the things that you just laid out, where we just gave Jared McCain the second best at dribbling, shooting for this basketball team. He has to play,
even if he doesn't do it well. It just adds a different dimension for this team. Mm-hmm. So it's so no, I don't really put a ton on Nurse. You can see he's trying to draw up these double drag screens. He has these plays for Kelly Oubre and Caleb Martin. But they're plays for Kelly Oubre and Caleb Martin, right? And these guys are not making any shots in terms of catch and shoot looks either. It's It's tough, man. But the one thing I will say about Nick Nurse, though, is that last year, when the Sixers really didn't have very high expectations, and they were playing through Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid in that 2-man game, and Kelly Oubre found a great role, starting alongside them. When you had Covington and Melton and all those guys were playing pretty well, everybody but Tobias Harris. When that thing was going, that was like some of the most beautiful basketball I had seen the Sixers play, which was shocking because they didn't have the two easy stars. Like Maxey was becoming that player, but it was something I don't think we expected. I will say, like, I think I'd rather have Doc Rivers coach a shorthanded team than Nick Nurse. Like
Doc Rivers was pretty good at it.
He was weirdly good at it.
Yes, he was.
Now, I'd rather have Nick Nurse coach my actual team and my team in the playoffs, like the one that actually matters. But yeah, I mean, he does not have the answers with this group. And by the way, some of that could just be roster construction where these sort of role players, they have no chance when Joel and PG are out. But yeah, it's been, I think the story of these last 2 seasons is that, man, when they've been healthy and they've had everybody available, they've looked about as good as they've ever looked. But some of these stretches, woof, man, just woof. This first week has been terrible.
This first week has been terrible.
What are we going to do?
We're gonna go through another 78 games. That's what we're gonna do, Rich. So you know what? We'll get to your other 3 takeaways as we take a quick break. Rich has some takeaways we have to get to. We'll do that. We'll continue with those. As Rich says, what are we going to do? 78 more games. That's what we're going to do. We'll come back.
They'll be better.
Right here on the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show. And it's never ordinary, is it? Never ordinary. But if you felt like you would have done pretty well in betting this game against Detroit versus Philadelphia, I hope if you listened to us and at least went to Bet365 and placed your wagers, maybe not chosen the ones that we did, because the only one I think that might have hit was Rich's. He had Yabusele with one made three-pointer. I think he made 2, actually, or he at least shot one from distance. But if you do want to place your bets, there's some games going on right now. The championship in Major League Baseball is going on right now. Maybe you want to place a live in-game wager. You can do that with Bet365. They have pioneered live in-game betting with live streams of over 780,000 events each year and the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use code PHLY365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. So go for it with our good friends at Bet365. Again, download the Bet365 app. Use code, once again, PHLY365 when you sign up to get that $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
And Devon, I am here to tell you about our friends at Empire Today, who can help you with all of your carpeting and flooring needs. You can use EmpireToday.com/PHLY for $350 off new floors. With Empire Today, you get to shop for home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so there are going to be copycats out there. But don't worry about them. You need to go to Empire Today, whose philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. So shopping for floors at a big box store can be very frustrating, Devon. You might talk to somebody who was working on plumbing a couple hours ago. Not Empire Today. They stick to flooring, carpeting. That is what they live and breathe. So you can be confident that you're getting honest, upfront advice. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHLY for details.
Yeah, especially when you have losses like this and you just kind of, you know how you react and you fall on the floor because you're so angry. You want to have the carpeting. You want to make sure you're good so you're not hitting that hardwood floor and you know what I'm saying. All right, let's get to We're going to get to some super chats. We're going to get to Kyle and Derek or both of them. If not, Kyle will join us later after the post-game press conference. Very curious to hear what the head coach and the players have to say following this one, including Tobias Harris. We'll get to him a little bit later as well. Let's go to takeaway number 2 from Rich tonight in this loss.
Well, that was at the lack of shot creation and shooting behind Maxey. Just it's hard to win with these guys, Devon. It's like we said earlier. I thought Maxey made some of the most advanced passes of his season tonight. Like he did. It wasn't every possession, but there were a few times he was spraying the ball out to the corner, getting into the paint, and these guys were just not taking the advantage. Right? Like one of the big things we have talked about with Tyrese is, hey, make the simple play. Give your teammates an advantage, and then it's their job to keep that advantage and create a great shot out of that. I don't think they did a great job at all of that tonight. Like I think he was able to give them open threes or driving lanes, and they did nothing with it. It was like a swing, and then Yabu gets stoned on a drive, so it doesn't really happen. So I don't know, man. I think overall there are a lot of issues with this team. We can talk about the transition defense in a minute, which was really crappy tonight. But I think it ultimately boils down to the fact that there's just no shot creation on this team right now.
No, again, when you're asking these players to do so, where Tyrese Maxey is double team and a better defender is playing again on Kelly Oubre or Caleb Martin because there is no Paul George, there is no Joel Embiid, you're going to draw that other defender. And while the Pistons' perimeter defenders are not that good, they can be decent enough when you're playing in a role that you should not be. Tonight, Kelly Oubre 2 for 6 from deep. 5 for 14 overall. Caleb Martin, 2 for 10 from the field, 1 for 3 from beyond. That's what Rich is talking about. He's passing making these passes to these players. They're overall 7 for 24 from the floor and 3 for 9 from the perimeter. Then you have Kyle Lowry. He made 1 of 2 tonight. That's fine, right? Eric Gordon, 0 for 2. Yabusele, he did make 2 tonight of his 3 3-point attempts, but these are the guys that he's passing the ball to. And we were the ones that were also talking about in game number 1 against the Bucks in the opener. You got to go back and get the basketball. You got to keep going back and get the basketball. There's only so much he can continue to go out there and do, especially when Jaden Ivey's in his jersey or Gary Trent Jr. is in his jersey the way that they were and playing up so close, because they know that you have no release valve to anybody else without Paul George and Joel Embiid. I'm making excuses for them in this way because you're missing 2 All-Stars. You're missing 2 All-NBA level players that are out there with Tyrese Maxey that makes so much of a difference. And we know after this road trip and this game against Memphis at home on Saturday, which they may lose all 4, and we're looking at a record, oh my goodness.
That would be bad.
At 1-7 to start the season, we know they can run off 8 in a row or win 10 of 12.
They're gonna need their guys healthy.
Yeah, exactly. and these guys they're not gonna be worn out, but they're logging a lot of miles right now for what you're gonna need them to do in their roles with Paul George and Joel Embiid out there on the floor to go along with Tyrese Maxey. So this is all interesting how it's playing out very early. We saw where Dallas struggled early and they came back, they made it to the finals.
Yeah.
The Sixers are gonna pick it up. They're going to be fine at some point. But for right now, for what they're dealing with the absence of their 2 All-Stars, it's a frustrating watch right now. And Maxey has to do so much, and the others are not good enough in the roles that they're asked to play right now.
So there's 2 worries, right? And I've seen a few comments in the chat about this where there's a question of, okay, if they look this bad without PG and Embiid, how good are they really? Now, I on that one would say, I would slow my roll on that one a little bit. I
agree.
First off, I'd like to say they're going to make a trade at some point this year to upgrade this roster. They have legitimate stuff to trade. They have the KJ Martin contract to move. By the way, that was a painful game to watch. That was a hell of a dunk by him. Wow.
Cut the lead. What was it, like 15?
Yeah, hey, look.
But no, you're right.
I'm trying to take the positives.
Hey, and I'll do you one better. Good pass from Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
Good pass. He laid it right there on the side of the rim, and very, very good finish by KJ Martin. That's what he does. He's very good at that.
So that would be the first thing I would say. And number 2, in terms of like how good will the roster be when Joel and PG are healthy, assuming they do get healthy at some point.
And how healthy?
We don't want to take that for granted at this point. Let's say they do get back to their current level. I think this goes to show, like, Joel Embiid is probably still somehow an underrated player, a regular season player at this point. He just covers up so many warts. And, we just talk about Maxey there. Maxey, the first time Maxey gets blitzed when he runs a pick and roll or dribble handoff with Joel, and he can just slide the nice little pocket pass, and the Sixers start scoring 2 points. And then next time they try and blitz him, well, they can't do it because they don't want to give up a free throw line jumper that Joel makes, 60% of the time. That's going to be a huge deal. But obviously he covers up so much on the offensive and defensive end. And when we talk about like roles of players too, like I think that the Yabusele at center minutes, I like Yabu. I still want him to be part of the rotation when all those guys come back. I'd like to see him play at the 4 at this point because first off, these guys aren't making threes anyway, so I don't really care about playing and shooting at the 4. And they just need to get bigger as a team. So it's just they feel so small when he's playing.
Where are you going to go to 5? You going to go Bona back up?
No, Drummond did. I'm saying
you mean when Embiid comes back?
When they get
yeah, of course. And Yabusele will slide over to the 4. Yeah.
So that's another thing. I guess my big worry though about this, Devon, besides is this team good enough in terms of having a playoff? What's their playoff ceiling when everybody's healthy? What I am more concerned about is the Sixers have told us this season that they are going to rest these guys a bunch. And I am pretty worried, like, if they rest one of Joel or PG, I feel like the margin for error is very slim at this point. The rest of these guys, they have not demonstrated that they can win. They can tread water, right? That they can win 1 out of 2 when these guys are out. So I am a little bit worried about the plan, which I am all for. The rest Joel, keep him healthy for the playoffs. You do have to make it through the regular season with a certain amount of wins, though. And it seems like this first week that's put some doubts in my head about how smoothly they'll be able to navigate these waters.
Yeah. This is just bad, man, because it really is. Because when you talk about resting and all of that, now look, they're 1-3 right now. We thought they might be 2-2 with a tough game against Memphis before the 3-game road trip against the 2 LA teams and the Phoenix Suns. It was going to be tough anyway. So we're probably looking at 2-6, and we're probably more talking now about 1-7, which is not great either way. But it's more of how they look, how it's happening, how it gets done, and how it's getting done is very, very glaring right now, where you and many people in the chat are just simply pointing out that they are not a good basketball team at the moment. And Maxey is asked to do everything that he's doing. And we've seen him perform as the best player on the floor. We've seen him when he struggled, when he's supposed to be the best player on the floor, and especially the best player on the team for the Philadelphia 76ers, and they get blown out. To your point of having to look at them as your first takeaway, just call it for what it is. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA when those two guys are not on the floor. I was calling, again, the Pistons the lowly Pistons. The Sixers lost to them, and they look worse against this
considerably
Pistons.
Worse.
So they were the lowly 76ers.
Think about like Cade Cunningham tonight, just being able to run him off a pick and roll and him being able to pull a semi-contested 3 off a screen. Like the Sixers just don't have that right now. They're just praying that Maxey has 40 points in him and maybe the other team is asleep or just doesn't make their shots, which they've made their shots for the most part so far. This is hard, man. Like it's not just that they're losing. Like that's just like not a fun product to watch for 2.5 hours. You said it, I think, about 3 or 4 possessions into the game. Maybe it was about 5 or 6 possessions into the game. And obviously we didn't know the Sixers were going to lose at that point.
No.
But we hadn't really said anything for a while on the couch, and you were just like, man, this is awful.
2 bad basketball teams, Rich. I didn't know there were 2 bad basketball teams, but there were 2 bad basketball teams. It was almost like we watched Washington and Portland as outsiders, and except it's the team
like it was 2015 all over
that
again.
We watch, and we watched them closely, and it was the Sixers and the Pistons. Let's go to takeaway number 3 from Rich tonight in this dreadful loss by 10 to the Pistons, 105-95. The score wasn't that close. Number 3.
So obviously I wouldn't have minded some. Again, these guys are not that talented, but I wouldn't have minded some boos on that 4 offensive rebound possession.
Man.
What is going on? You have to play harder than that.
Oh my gosh.
And that was really rough. I feel like Andre Drummond too. I forgot this part about him. Like the defensive rebounding is not nearly as good as the offensive rebounding. And the Sixers, they just really tried to crash the glass. That's one of the few things that they have done well early this year. They
collectively as a team.
They have rebounded on the offensive glass, not the defensive glass, the offensive glass well. But I think you've seen, especially tonight, and Nick Nurse, I believe he said this in his postgame press conference, they just went too hard for some of those offensive rebounds, and they were toast on the other end. I mean, you said it as we were watching. What did Tobias have 8 points on leakouts?
Yeah. He just, cherry picking.
Just cherry picking.
Yeah.
Just the easiest buckets in the world. And of course, he's talking smack after that, too.
Yeah.
Which, like,
told the crowd to shut the bleep
Tobias
up.
had so many bad plays tonight, by the way, too. He had a reach on Jared McCain that just I felt like PTSD.
Yeah,
like,
but it's the one that you were really ticked off at, the one that sent Jared McCain to the free throw line.
It was unbelievable. He was right in front of Jared McCain. Jared McCain had no chance to shoot over him. Like, just stay straight up. And he gives the most awful reach in the world. And it's like, it's not even a question of whether he got him. He got him across the forearm. And I was like, well, yeah. I don't miss that.
Yep.
That Tobias Harris foul. But yeah, they were giving him so many easy buckets in transition. And he wasn't the only one. Jaden Ivey hit a bunch of threes. Malik Beasley hit a bunch of threes. When they're not matched up in transition and they're crashing the offensive glass so hard, that's the trade-off. So Nick Nurse, he actually had teams in Toronto that were so weird and so athletic that they could crash the offensive glass, but also get back on defense, with guys like Chris Boucher kind of just waving those long arms back there and, kind of junking the game up. These Sixers cannot do that. So they got torched on the other end tonight, and that also added to the frustration.
No, it really did. And to the point of the transition defense, Jaden Ivey was able to go out in transition and do a windmill dunk, another pullback dunk that, it was just pull it all the way back and just flush it home. That's how bad the transition defense was, where he was able to do stuff like that, where there was no one there, where he could pull that type of in-game dunk contest type of dunk off in the game in transition. The transition defense was not good at all. Just quickly, transition defense, fast break points for them, it was 23-15 in favor of the Pistons, 9 of 12. Sixers had 7 of 10, but it didn't feel that way because the Pistons were constantly out there in transition, getting those easy buckets. And think about
all the threes Tobias missed, too. Tobias did not get the last laugh tonight. He's going to be home in April.
It's going to be so annoying.
That team is not good. He got to play against the team without Joel Embiid and Paul George. He did not get the last laugh. I saw a lot of the decline that we've seen from past years from him, but he just played against the lottery team tonight.
Yeah, he did. 18 points and a game best. They have it here as 14 rebounds. Initially, it was 15, but he had a game best in rebounds with 14 boards for Tobias Harris.
Money Mar. Tobias said Paul George over me.
Perfect Money Mar on that one. We'll go to a break quickly. Come back. We'll keep this going. The frustrations. Let it out, everybody. We'll give you our player of the game. We'll check in with the guys from the arena right here on the PHLY Sixers postgame. Man, you want to go spend some money now. You want to, you know how you get frustrated. You say, I'm buying this to calm me down and make me feel better. I want to buy this. But you got to be responsible, though. And you want to have a good financial institution that you deal with so you can feel secure. And that's with our good friends from TrueMark Financial and how great they are now, offering you the TrueMark Financial's Rewards Visa Credit Card. Earn rewards for each purchase using TrueMark Financial's Rewards Visa Credit Card, redeeming them for travel and retail gift cards. Build your credit through timely payments and low credit utilization, and you can enjoy fraud protection with features like zero liability. They offer you a ton of savings options from traditional savings accounts, money market account, and certificates as well. So if you want to set yourself up for the upcoming year, you want to start things off right for January 1, maybe get a head start and do so now with TrueMark Financial. Set your kids up as well. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit truemark.com/PHLY.
And Devon, I think after a game like that, I might want to choose chill.
This is perfect. Choose chill. Perfect.
Let's talk about our friends at Coors Light. And like I said, I might need to choose chill. I mean, we are frustrated right now, Devon. I I am more frustrated not with really the players, but just the current state of the team. We like talking about good basketball, and this is terrible basketball. So when I go home, I might choose chill and get a nice Coors Light, let those mountains turn blue with the beer in my fridge. Coors Light is a cold lagered and cold filtered, cold packaged for a smoother finish. Make the most out of the times that you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light and get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Choose chill tonight, everybody. Choose chill. Let's get to...
I feel like we're pretty chill.
We are pretty chill.
I think we know that the team is going to be better at some point as long as Joel and PG are here. But I think it's perfectly fair to be frustrated.
And critical of what we've seen over the first 4 games.
This is super rough, man.
It really is. It really is. Again, in 2022-23, they started off 0-3, and they lost... Yeah. They lost 4 of their 5. The Spurs were the third game. And I remember me and Keith Pompey got into an argument because I said, well, they lost to a good team technically because the Spurs were 2-1 at that point. And me and Keith went into a back and forth. That team stinks. Well, we knew that. But at the moment, the Sixers were worse than they were through those first 3 games. Let's get to our Super Chats here because we do have a couple of Super Chats that we want to jump into. And let's do so starting off with Bernard McCoy. Boy! Buddy would look good in this team right now. Oubre, Caleb, and Lowry stink. No floor spaces for Maxey. Team built for Embiid, not Maxey. Thanks, Bernard McCoy. Really appreciate that from the Super Chat. What do you think, man? Buddy Hield starting off pretty well for the Golden State Warriors. We've seen that before, but then it fades away.
We saw Buddy Hield with this shorthanded team last year.
And he looked really good in the beginning when he first got traded. Yeah, first 5 games, he looked really good.
Look,
playmaking, shooting.
They could probably use Buddy Hield to run a couple dribble handoffs and pick and rolls. I know he's playing well with Golden State. I think that team is a little bit of a better fit for him. They emphasize shooting and off-ball movement more than the Sixers do. I will say, like the Sixers, this offense right now is super static. Man. I understand that getting more movement doesn't automatically equal better offense when you're this limited, right? That there can be a lot of possessions when you're just going east-west when you're trying to play that way. But it's uninspired. I'll tell you that right now. And again, I think most of it is the personnel and not Nick Nurse, but it's rough. So yes, they could use Buddy Hield. I mean, they have nobody who's making a shot right now, Devon. I think coming into the night, they were shooting 27% from three-point range, and they only shot 28% tonight, so it didn't get that much better. Look, with the way the NBA has shifted in the last few years, with all of these threes, probably a few too many threes if we're being honest. But that is the best way to maximize your odds to win right now. If you're shooting 28% from 3 every night, like you have to absolutely smoke teams in every other aspect to be a good basketball team. And the Sixers, they're just not equipped to do that.
Team defense also not very good. Before tonight, they were 23rd in the NBA team defense, giving up 120 points. While they did not do that tonight, they also didn't score enough, and they gave up 105 to that Detroit Pistons team. They're bad
at everything
on defense. Real time with Prince Blue, also a super chat. We appreciate it. Joel Embiid, MVP. Everything goes through him. Rich.
I mean, yeah. Like, again, I have been banging the drum that I think Joel, the regular season player, is such an underrated force. He completely stabilizes everything for the Sixers. The offense, I think the more pressing thing, Devon, he stabilizes their defense in a way. I don't know. I've watched enough Andre Drummond pick and roll defense. He had a couple of those nice pokeaways. I think he had one the night, but he obviously made some huge plays down the stretch to get you that Indiana game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same. It's not the same. Having Joel on the back line just completely allows you to press up on shooters, take away some of those threes, and just feel a little bit better about, hey, if I get beat off the dribble, the big man's gonna help me on the back line. So yeah, 100%. And look, I think once they get Joel back, I wouldn't be surprised if they start to roll a little bit, right?
I agree.
Like I watched Caleb Martin and Kelly Oubre, who stunk the joint up tonight. They're not going to have to run all these pick and rolls, right? They're running plays for those guys right now.
I know, man.
They're running too many plays for them.
I know.
It's not their fault. They're running too many plays for guys that should be probably their 5th and 6th options in the pecking order.
Let's talk about something good tonight. Again, we have discussed them, but let's give our player of the game for tonight. I think it's pretty obvious who that player is, and that is one Tyrese Maxey. 32 points was the game best. Got to the free throw line again, Rich, for the third consecutive game. Not like that Milwaukee game. 7 times, not double figures, but he's getting there. 6 for 7. Shot 48% from the field. 7 assists, as you talk about his playmaking looking pretty good. And he hit a lot of guys tonight for some really good looks, but they missed those. He could have had double-digit assists tonight. Not sure that it would have made much of a difference in a game that was lost by 10, but we know it was a little bit more than that with how we watched it and how it felt. But an overall pretty good game for Tyrese Maxey, player of the game tonight.
Couple beautiful left-to-right crossovers against Cade Cunningham that ended up in floaters. And, he had a couple nice step-back jumpers. I think one was on
Tobias twice.
One was on, a couple on Tobias, and he had one, I think, against Jaden Ivey as well. Yeah, I thought he was very good tonight. Obviously, I wish he made more than 2 of 10 threes. It was funny. He and Cade Cunningham were kind of having the opposite game for a while, where Tyrese was doing all of his damage from inside the arc, was actually probably looking better than Cunningham for a lot of the game, but Cade Cunningham was making his threes. So that was closing up the gap pretty good there. I'm not worried about Tyrese. I was obviously very encouraged with the second half against Indiana, and I thought he played pretty well tonight. Yeah, which is, I think, probably makes me feel worse about this Embiid-less, PG-less team. Like, Maxey was not bad tonight. No, obviously, he was bad against Milwaukee. He was bad against Toronto as well. He was pretty good tonight, and they still got their doors blown off.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. All right. We're going to take our final break before we get to one of the guys, if not both of the guys, join us from the arena. And we'll get to a little bit more of some of the tough things. We'll kind of look ahead to the Memphis Grizzlies as well with Rich and see where things go from here with this basketball team as they fall by 10, 105-95 to the lowly, Sixers seem lowly themselves, to the Detroit Pistons. And we got to talk about Tobias Harris just a little bit and the reaction from the crowd, the video tribute. We'll have it all right here on the PHLY Sixers postgame.
Devon, let me tell you about Golden Nugget Jewelers. While the Eagles are hunting down a ring, not the
5-2,
not the Sixers, not the Sixers. They're not hunting down a ring.
Six more months.
You can too, and you can go to Golden Nugget Jewelers, which is located on Chestnut and A Street in downtown Philly. They are a family-owned and operated business since 1987, and they have a wide assortment of engagement rings and wedding bands to fit anyone's style. And it's not just wedding jewelry, Devon. You can get watches there. You can get diamond necklaces, diamond bracelets, earrings, any other jewelry that you're looking for. The people at Golden Nugget, they got it for you. You can also receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring that you purchase. So you deserve an expert and the best price. Go to Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Head over to goldennuggetjewelers.com to learn more.
All right, folks, and I want to tell you, after another loss, as Rich and I sit here together for these 2 home games, I got to tell you about our good friends from Blue Chew. It's Wednesday. It's a hectic week coming up for everybody. It's a tough loss here tonight, and you want to relax a little bit. Again, you want to be cool. You want to relax, and you want to let off some steam in a good way. Blue Chew has you covered. It's an online service that delivers the same ingredients, the active ingredients, as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is very simple. All you have to do is sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Now, folks, I would advise you. It's getting cold. You get a little snuggly. You get a little touchy-feely. And then as you do that, next thing you know, you're there. It's the best part as well, though, when you sign up for this. It's all done online. That means there's no visits to the doctor's office where you might feel a little embarrassed. No one has to see you, a little awkward. No awkward conversations need to be had. And there's no waiting in line at the pharmacy either. Now, you ask the question, Devon, does it work? Don't think you need it? Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But try it. Get a free month trial and see. You're going to love it. Your partner's going to love it as well. They say there's nothing sexier than confidence, and Blue Chew can help give you that confidence where it counts. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew for free when you sign up. Use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 in shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. All right.
Yeah, Tyrese was good tonight, man.
He was.
He was good. They have a new play they're running where they kind of run that double ball screen for him, but he dribbles all the way down to the corner. You know what that kind of reminded me of? This will make me feel better. Remember the Ben Simmons snug pick and rolls when they would have him run pick and rolls, but they'd have him going the other way.
Yes.
It's the most nonsensical play I've ever seen in my life. The fact that Joel Embiid had to set a screen for him on that play, where maybe he'd take a hook shot, but he'd probably just pass out. Anyway, this felt like a much better version of that. Like it was better spaced. And he found a way to attack. So that was good. That was good. It seems like they're starting to find some plays for him to run. And so
we're seeing some decent designs. The problem is who you're having run these design plays, Rich. I mean, it's just what it is. The design is not bad in some of these.
I don't think so. I know some people.
We've seen it with Toronto where, he had the personnel, but different type of personnel, more athletic. They didn't have the big man type guy there, even though Marc Gasol was phenomenal in their run where they won a championship. Yeah, but the play design is really good. The in-game stuff, as you said, you prefer to have Doc Rivers when it comes to a shorthanded team, but when you have a full-strength team going into the playoffs, you want Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse is a good coach. So I don't have a problem with the design. The issue is who he has to run those plays for.
Yeah. So what did you make of the whole Tobias thing from the – let's list everything that happened. From the introduction, seemed like there were some boos.
Yeah.
Some boos. I think – obviously, everybody says sucks after the other player gets announced. Tobias actually got booed. That's how you know the fans really want to let you know that they don't appreciate you if they don't just tell you that you suck.
Yeah.
So that was number one. Number one. There was a video tribute. I think you predicted this before the game, or somebody did.
Derek did.
Combined with Paul Reed.
Good job by the Sixers. I mean,
smart.
We've seen this before. So it's
very classy.
Yes, it's very smart where you take some of that opportunity away from him to be booed by himself, because he's going to get booed in the introduction. Paul Reed did not play as you predicted. So they combined them both. They put Paul Reed on the screen. They double boxed them so you could see them both on the screen after the tribute played. And it seemed like, as I watched Derek, I was reading some of Derek's tweets as it was happening, and Derek pointed out how you got a few of the B-ball Paul chants in the arena that kind of drowned out some of the boos because they wanted to pay tribute to Paul Reed. It was a fan favorite for what he was as a role player, and for what he did. As far as it sounded like it should have been, based on how people feel about Tobias Harris. I thought there would be more. It's like some real vitriol towards him as a player here for 5+ seasons. It was 5 seasons of the contract, and then the half a season from February and through the playoffs when he was traded here. That's a really long time of Tobias Harris here for the disappointment that even he talked about at shoot-around today for the Pistons, where it just did not come together for the 76ers. A lot of disappointment. And fans remember the contract. They remember the goose egg that you talked about in the final game against New York.
Come on.
They remember the 3 points against the Boston Celtics in Game 6. Where he started off, 1 for 3, and that was it. Saw him finish a layup on a catch where it was a layup, alley-oop. It was a similar play to what James Harden gave him in that Game 6 against the Boston Celtics, where they were up 3-2 with an opportunity to close him out. He missed that one.
So many missed layups.
So many memorable things. Someone said to me earlier, there's not one thing that I remember positively, like a standout thing. That's not true, and I told them this earlier. I remember the game winner against the Los Angeles Lakers here in town, where he made that pull-up jump shot against the Lakers on this floor over, I don't even remember if it was LeBron James, but LeBron James was on the floor.
Might have been Caruso, actually.
Might have been Caruso.
Yeah.
But he made that shot. That was a money shot right there. That was a big shot. But that's the only good thing that I remember. I remember stretches of games where he would go a week with 20-point games where he looked really good. I can talk positively about when either Simmons at the time or Embiid were out. He stepped up his rebounding in their absence, where he would really hit the glass hard and rebound the basketball. Tobias Harris did. But for him tonight, I thought it was, at the moment, when he scored his 4th point, and he was probably like 2 for 8, 2 for 7, 2 for 8, and he's egging the fans on and asking them to continue to boo.
Shut the front door, too.
Shut the front door. He really didn't mean it, but that's him. That's who he is, where he's a quiet guy. He's a really nice guy on the floor where he's talking like that and he puffs his chest out. That's not really Tobias. Tobias Harris is not that type of guy. But when your emotions really get into it, you do call on that. You ask for that. You continue to egg that on. And even at the time when he scored that 4th point, I believe they might have been up by a few points, or the Sixers may have been up at that time by a couple of points as well. Look, they won the game. He rebounded well. He wound up getting 18 points, which messed up my individual bet of his under on 14.5. We were on a good pace for a while until he started cherry picking and getting a couple of those shots to go there in transition with nobody defending him. He got a dunk where he got fouled and one, and he looked at Caleb Martin. As Rich said a little bit earlier, it's October. Let's see what happens in April.
October.
Is he going to be in the play-in? Is he going to be in playoffs? Or is he going home early when he's Mr. October for Tobias? But look, good for him. He came home. Something he can brag about, walk off the court. Money Mars said, Paul George over me. Got it. His dad was sitting courtside. He had all of that working for him. Congratulations to Tobias Harris. He won October.
He won October. He got off very lucky.
He got off very, very easy because if Paul George was out there tonight,
he probably would have been guarding Tobias in that one. I mean, Tobias shot 8 of 18. He had some terrible isolation possessions.
Yeah, he
just
did.
these no-hopers. Ugh, he's such a frustrating player.
Because as we were watching it, we can get into this as we wait for the guys too and see people talking about Tobias in the chat. We saw everything that we always saw in the Sixers uniform tonight. There was nothing different. The same dribble through your legs, try to back somebody down, or the stutter step to get to the rim, bad shot. 2 possessions on offensive rebound, 2 shots on the same possession from the 3-point, same spot from the wing, bricks. And what was the most frustrating thing for you covering him for the 5+ years that you did?
It just felt like that. Now, there were times I thought in
non-person, we're talking the player.
No, I really like the person. 2020, 2021, when they cruised to the #1 seed that year. Now, again, that was a really goofy year. Because, there were so many guys, just a lot of nights, half the team was out with COVID, your opponent. Anyway, he had a really good year. And if you remember, there was a big push, can the Sixers get 3 All-Stars? And they couldn't. Ben Simmons was the second All-Star. And I remember Doc at the time basically saying that, he was lobbying the other coaches on Tobias and Ben. Mm-hmm. And they basically said, the other coaches were like, oh yeah, Ben is an easy pick. But Tobias didn't get the nod. And I think that is what was frustrating. It's just that, like, his game never really contributed to the highest level of winning basketball. It's like you said, they showed his stats from his 5 years as a Sixer. And I thought this was well said by you. If you just look at those numbers, 17, 18 points a game, 37% from beyond the arc.
7 rebounds a night.
45% from the field. That looks pretty good.
That's pretty darn good.
But when you watched it in practice, you never felt like he was contributing to winning. That sometimes he was. There were times when he stepped up and he was a good number 3. The problem was he didn't have the impact of a number 3 that you were looking for. But if you played him as kind of your 4-star, which they did during that Jimmy Butler year, that guy needs to be more of a 3-point shooter because he's going to be off the ball. He's not going to get many pick and roll reps, those things. So he kind of was in between the roles that he should have been. It just never felt the same way it looked like in the box score, I would say.
I would admit to you, as we get ready to check in with Kyle Neubeck from the arena, during that year, as Doc Rivers, to your point, I thought Tobias Harris was more worthy of that All-Star nod than Ben Simmons at that time. That year. That was the only time. I thought Tobias was tremendous through the month of December. He started to fade in January, and Ben Simmons picked up his play, and I think that's what hurt Tobias Harris in that spot. He couldn't sustain it, and since he couldn't sustain it and Ben Simmons picked up his level of play, he was already an All-Star. You know where they were going to go.
And I think the coaches who voted for the reserves for the All-Star team, the fact that they were pretty unanimous on, like, hey, at that point, Ben Simmons very flawed player. I don't think we have to go over those. How about him passing up that layup the other night, by the way, too? That made the rounds.
It made the rounds on this show, too. We played that video.
But at that point, I think the coach is saying, no, this guy is the more impactful player with his defense and his passing. I think that's telling because the coaches generally know more than we do. I will it's not that you can't criticize coaches, but when all of them are kind of saying the same thing, as established as a lot of them are, I think I will defer to their opinion on
I would too. I'm going to have to defer how it was in the arena, too, to this guy who's joining us right now. Since we were not there, he was. We're joining us right now, Kyle Neubeck, watching a frightful performance one day on the eve of Halloween, Kyle. The 76ers found a way to just ruin Halloween for everybody and losing by 10, where it was actually a little bit worse in this one as they fall to the Pistons. Just an awful performance overall tonight.
I mean, you want to talk about frightful. I stumbled into this room and you guys are talking about Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons. Jesus Christ, it's depressing around here right now. Yeah, I mean, yes, thanks, Derek. Look at that. I just caught a paper ball that Derek threw at me while I'm doing this shot, by the way.
That's the best play in that arena tonight.
Yeah, so it was no less depressing being here to watch that up close than it was on TV or wherever people were watching from illegally around the world. It was not good. And I don't know where you guys have landed on after this game or like up to this point through 4 games without Joel and Paul. To me, it just feels like everything flows out of they cannot shoot. They have not shot. And offense has been so hard to come by that you just reach a point in the game where just like everything gives out, right? Like I think they started that game okay. I think they were, they made some shots, get some stops. It looks like a normal basketball game. And then they just miss and miss and miss and miss. And even worse, then they start record scratching. And Nick Nurse and Tyrese Maxey both brought it up at the podium tonight, saying effectively, like, look, there are times when guys just are going to have to let it fly. Like, we pulled up tape after the game and are already seeing someone has an open shot and is not taking it. And they just don't have the luxury of turning down open shots that they've created right now. So I just think so many of their problems flow out of that, right? If you can't score, everything else gets and feels harder. It's why they end up in transition defense a lot of the night. It's why they ended up, they go smaller in the second half, and that brought some energy. It changed the game a little bit, but then you end up struggling on the defensive glass. Like the offense is bad. They are were last in 3-point percentage coming into the game. And I think they actually improved it
28%.
Despite the fact that they shot 8 for 28 tonight. And that is just staggering to think about.
Yeah. Kyle, I got to say, for this iteration of the Sixers, without Joel Embiid and without Paul George, I think this was by far the most distressing game to me because I thought Tyrese Maxey was pretty good tonight. Obviously, like if you look at the box score, 12 of 25, that's not as efficient as you would want it to be. And, he missed some shots late. You would like him to make more than 2 of 10 from beyond the arc. But you mentioned the record scratching. I thought this was his best passing game of the year by a lot. And I thought he was creating advantages. And it's just a matter of like, these guys can't do anything with it.
Rich, you and I could not be more on the same page. It was one of the things in my recap where I was like, look, the stats will not reflect it, right? Because nobody made shots. And even when they got the open looks, we didn't know that would become a shot attempt for that matter. But, we saw some skip passes. Yeah, one that was like a one-hand laser to the corner nice type of skip pass. He had some nice bounce passes through traffic. I know we had the Devon Givens lob of the night in transition to KJ. That might have been the only time Devon got excited that entire game. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of what you want to see from him, I thought this was a great game on offense, right? Like maybe you make a few more shots and you claw closer and we can, nitpick a little bit, but by and large, like this is the type of game you need from Maxey as kind of you set your floor every night. The issue was they just got very little everywhere else, right? Like as I was going through trying to write my recap, I'm like, well, I liked what Jared McCain did. I thought he brought them energy. He ends up playing a bunch of second half minutes. And you look at the box score and it's like, well, he shot 3 for 9. Like that's your positive. That's one of your guys. You're like, I feel good about him after that game.
Yeah.
So that I think says it all, right? Is that when you're trying to find the positive and there was some positive, I'll give him that. He had some nice moments and that's as high as you can go. It says a lot about that game.
So as Kyle Newbeck joining us live from the arena, Sixers fall 105-95, now 1-3 on the season. As we were talking about it, man, and you mentioned Jared McCain and how well he played. Kyle Lowry did some decent things at times also, but we're asking a lot of a lot of people here on this roster. And one of the questions that came from Stacy in the chat was, why not, if you're searching for things, as good, as rough as things are right now, no Reggie Jackson, DMP, CD again, because you're looking for any type of shot creation, any kind of shot making from anybody. When Maxey is making these types of plays and these passes are going to these players that are playing a level up and they can't make these shots, are we at the point now, especially with where they are in the schedule, where maybe you need to go a little bit deeper with a veteran like Reggie Jackson, as an example?
I think before I would go there, I might just try to change how many minutes different guys are playing that are already in the rotation. Like, to me, I would try to get Yabusele out there more. I know he's already playing, 18, 20 minutes. He's playing a lot of backup center. But when they're struggling to rebound, it's when he has to be the lone big. And frankly, he shot okay tonight, right? Like, knocks down a couple threes and has been a guy who wants to physically mix it up. I think they need that element right now. And I think you might want to, try him out next to Drummond a little bit rather than, okay, we can only get you on the floor essentially when Andre's out there. Like, that'd be number one. Number two, I think I would start playing Jared McCain more because I don't see what you're getting from, I know what you get in theory from Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry and like Gordon had a good game against Indiana. Lowry's had some moments. He's actually shot the ball pretty well this year. But those guys are just not moving well right now. And like, I think when you have to make up for the absence of Joel Embiid as your rim protector, not to mention Paul George on the wing, you just need guys who are going to be able to move in space a little bit. And I believe in McCain a lot more in that respect than somebody like Gordon or Lowry. So, maybe they throw out Reggie Jackson at some point, but I think, and I asked Nick Nurse this at the podium tonight, the problem at present is that they have to make really hard sacrifices to get a certain skill on the floor, right? Like, if you want shooting, they basically have to play small right now. You don't have the luxury of, Paul George is going to give you two-way play, wing defense, athleticism. Oh, and by the way, he's a high volume 3-point shooter and a capable pick and roll guy. Like, they have a bunch of guys who are average-ish shooters with good size or small, and they can shoot. And that is not a good place to be in without the stars.
That's why he makes $200 million, Paul George. That's, you don't have to make any sacrifices with him. Yeah, no, I completely agree, Kyle. I mean, honestly, just watching McCain get to the rim a couple of times against Cade Cunningham, it's just like, Lowry can't do that. Gordon can't do that. And Jared McCain is not like a super shifty player, but he at least has the ability to string like 5 or 6 dribbles together and maybe get his shoulders past the guy. One other thing, and this was a smaller issue tonight, but I am a little bit worried about it moving forward, is that one of the only things the Sixers have done well so far this year is offensive rebound. And tonight, they got smoked because they kept going for offensive boards, and it was a layup line on the other end. Guys were getting wide open threes. I think Nick Nurse talked about this. I saw something on Twitter about it after the game. Can you kind of expound on that and just, I don't know, your thoughts on what happened there? Because it feels to me like that's the ultimate sacrifice they're making. They're trying to get offensive boards with a smaller team, and it could go really bad. And tonight I thought it went really bad.
Right. And that's why you see a lot of teams go the other way, right? Where they say, we don't really care about the offensive glass because transition defense is at such a premium and we don't want to give up, open threes when teams are running the other way, that ignore it altogether. Yeah, I 100% agree. Nick Nurse did get into it and said effectively, we had guys who just over pursued tonight. Like, we have to find the balance between, we want to be aggressive, right? Like, their whole slogan coming out of training camp and into the season was based upon the idea of, we have to create as many extra possessions as possible. Some of that is creating turnovers, so the aggressive defense. Some of that is the offensive rebounding. And there have been nights already where, Caleb Martin would have, 5 or 7 offensive rebounds by himself. Andre Drummond, 5 offensive rebounds by himself. And there will be times where it pays off. But it's always important to distinguish between aggression and discipline, right? Like, you can be aggressive. That doesn't mean you have to be completely off structure and just like, I'm going to chase every single opportunity there is, even if it's like a 5% offensive rebounding opportunity. So yeah, I thought that was really noticeable tonight, especially in the, second and third quarter, as that game got away from them. Detroit just really punished them. And, credit to them for a lot of young legs just getting out and running and saying, you're not going to keep up with me if you're crashing the glass. Like, good on them. But it was a poor job by the Sixers on that front.
All right, man, final one. We thought there was a very good chance that the Sixers could win, but the other big story, the return of Tobias Harris. We saw your videos on social media. We were not in the building. So outside of us seeing him to tell the fan base to shut the bleep up, what else can you add to the night from Tobias Harris and the fan reaction?
I will say this. I was mild surprised that he was a booed on every touch guy. Fully expected the pregame boo, the boo during the tribute video, although Paul Reed's B-ball Paul chants that got in there cut into the booing during the tribute video. I didn't think he was going to get the like full 4 quarters, just like screw this guy treatment. And I know I think the way I said it in my recap was, I guess if you're the sort of person who bought a ticket to Sixers Pistons without Joel Embiid and Paul George, you're probably the sort of person who's there just to stick it to Tobias. So I definitely get that. Honestly, the other big surprise for me, I thought once he got rolling and once they pulled away, he might chirp at the fans more and, like puff his chest out a little bit. He ends up with like 18 points, 14 rebounds, like led them down the stretch and ultimately closed out that game, but pretty subdued. And I will say this is like a classic Tobias moment. On the way out, there was actually a kid in a Tobias Harris jersey that he saw and was brought over to him, came over, like gave him like a little hug, whatever, talked to him, and then just ignored all the people booing him on the way out. So still a stand-up guy. And by the way, I did see there was a commenter, I think it's our friend Remo K, who said, what is Rocco up to these days? He was in the arena tonight. Rocco was lingering around, just watching the game as a spectator. Wow. And I know, Devon, you saw him up in New York.
What an anecdote.
Yeah, he was in New York the other night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Man, where isn't Rocco?
Making his rounds, man. Making his rounds. Well, listen, he had a good night, even though he cherry-picked for like 8 points.
He did.
His dad was in the building. He got the W in October. He can chirp right now, and that he did just a little bit, just enough.
There's been a lot of slander. Tobias is a good guy.
He is. He really is.
Yeah, that's all.
Yep. All right, make sure Kyle mentioned his recap. Go check him out at allphly.com. Read his recap. You'll check out some things for Derek Bodner as well. The newsletter for Rich Hoffman tomorrow, allphly.com. Sign up to become a diehard member. Kyle, we'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock, man. Get home safe.
Sounds good, fellas. Real quick before I go, I just want to test something. Derek did not catch the paper throwing it in. I hit him right in the stomach while I wasn't paying attention. So that's some behind-the-scenes magic for everyone who's not here.
A little paper fight.
Oh, almost caught another one.
I'm sure we get a paper fight on the show tomorrow.
I'm sure.
And I'm sitting in the middle of it all. See you.
Get home safe.
See you.
Wear a helmet.
We'll wear a helmet. Yeah, Robert Covington was in New York on Monday night for the Cavs-Knicks game. He was there. I heard. So he's in the building tonight.
Where'd you hear that from?
Yeah. Yeah, here he's in the building.
You got your sources.
Yeah, my little sources. So yeah, man. Hey, that's typical Tobias though. He's going to be a pro. Walks up. We saw a little bit after that final timeout. They made their run. He scored. They called timeout. He's chest bumping with everybody and telling everybody to shut the bleep up as he's walking to the bench. But that's probably the last time that he really said something.
Look, we've slandered him tonight, but I got to say, part of the reason we're slandering him is because the Sixers were terrible tonight. We really don't have anything else to talk about. If Joel played and they won by 30 points, I think I would have been more polite about him tonight.
Can I go back to something, though? Because Phil W. said something after we were talking about it. I mentioned the All-Star thing that year, as you talked about the All-Star part. Yeah. Phil W. said, Devon, stop. Simmons, All-Star, bro. Tobias' best years was with Simmons, creating for him. Simmons left, Tobias was worse. Did I say anything otherwise? Did I say something different? No. Simmons was playing with him. Tobias was playing so well that Doc Rivers was trying to get him into the All-Star game with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. He was that good at that point. And then he faded. And then he wasn't good. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Simmons was there with him. He left. He was worse. I agree.
Yep. Yes, he was.
Yes, he was.
He needed that playmaker. But yeah.
He also had a playmaker in James Harden, and the same problems happened.
Yeah. But one that was probably, yeah, it's true. I mean, James Harden, great playmaker, and he struggled playing around him. He wasn't, I mean, James Harden was better with catch and shoot guys, right? And guys who made quicker decisions because James Harden was going to make most of the decisions. Whereas Ben Simmons, for obvious reasons, like getting off the ball a little bit more. So a little bit of a better fit. I appreciate that comment. I hit like for you guys. Now I just want to say that this team and organization is a disgrace. The fans deserve much better. We appreciate
fans do deserve better. I will say that much.
We agree with you.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate you hitting like for us.
Phil W., you know I love you. Just had to set the record straight. And he said I was downplaying Simmons. Well, one was playing better than the other at that moment.
What a stupid franchise.
I mean,
what a stupid
nothing.
franchise.
Tobias was cool. You're right. Simmons wasn't playing as well at that time. And Rich will tell you, I was a big Ben Simmons supporter until I could not defend him anymore. And now here we are, as Rich pointed out, the bad play from the other night.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Well.
So,
all right.
All right. Yes. Michael B., final super chat here with us. All right. Sending the super chat that reflects my evaluation of tonight's performance. Actually, I would have sent 50 cents, but then it doesn't let you do that. It's just 50 cents. So
we appreciate it, Mike.
$5.01. Thank you, Michael. As always, we appreciate it. Thank you to everybody out there that joined us tonight, hung out with us until almost 11 o'clock on this Wednesday night. And man, it'll get better. It'll get better.
We think.
But it might not get much better soon.
Yeah. Stick with us, guys.
Memphis on Saturday, a 3-game West Coast trip against both LA teams and the Phoenix Suns. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Not great.
Look.
Not great. They might sneak one of those in.
We're with you guys.
Maybe.
We dream of a night that we're not talking about Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons, and we're talking about Joel Embiid and Paul George and Tyrese Maxey lighting up the scoreboard and beating a good team.
We're not there yet.
We're not there right now.
We're not there yet. Not there yet. Oh, by the way, the NBA Cup starts in like 2 weeks, so you hope that they're back for that too. Because I thought they actually might have a really good chance, and then we might have all been able to go to Las Vegas for the NBA for the Cup championship in Vegas in December. All right, well, that'll do it for us. But before we have to go, we want to say thank everybody and get to our world famous. It's time for the roll call, folks. I'll start off right away. Phil W. What up, Phil? Love you, Phil. Love you, man. Really appreciate it. We got to go Val Host. She was at the game. Hey, Val, thank you for checking in. Remo K, appreciate it as always. We had Money Mar in there, Malcolm Carrington. You had GRT, CPS1 that Rich just laid out talking about.
I'm happy you said that one.
You sent that one about the organization.
I was trying to pronounce it and I couldn't.
There you go.
You gotta spell.
You gotta spell out the letters, man. Yeah. Jeannie H, JH, thank you. She said Tobias was even booed walking to the scores table. You know that was gonna happen, Jeannie. That was definitely gonna happen. SB Cole in there. We appreciate it. What up, SB? Few more. Got the list right here for you. Claude, Very first one. Say, I'm sick of this team already. Faye, Philly 007. What up, Philly 007? John, peace. Peace. Phi Chi, Igavini, Satirical Zero. What a name in the chat. Stephen Mallet, Neil Deaver, the 2-minute warning. What up, Al? Benjami. Just stopping it right there. It's not Benjamin and nothing. It's just Benjami. Real Time with Prince Blue. What up, Real Time? Thanks for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Michael B., thanks for the late super chat from you. Marshall Lynch, Malcolm Carrington. What up, Malk? Brother Hannibal, Dave Dewar, Winona. Hey, Winona. Sean Cart, Money Mar, Zarbin, Stacy, Yams. What up, Yams? And our super chats, Bernard McCoy, Real Time, and Michael B. We really appreciate it. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been a tough one, we know. Like and subscribe. Hit the like button. When you do, you get the bell icon. That will alert you that it's 3 p.m. or a pregame show for me and Rich here on these nights. We thank everybody. It'll get better. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 for Bree. Thank you, Bree, as always, for Bree, Kyle, Derek, Rich. I'm Devon. We'll talk to you at 3 o'clock tomorrow right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.